Thank you for tuning in and co-creating this transmission of the Ministry of Assumption Absolute here with me today. My name is Lucian St. James. I'm your host, helping you to tune in to life on your terms, like a radio dial. Prosperity, love, and abundance achieved not through effort, but through embodiment of your divine within. Talking about why is it the case that you will only get what you already have, why need is the destroyer, is the absolute C4 detonation on everything it is that you seek to experience in this life here in our 3D holographic dream world existence. This doesn't even have to be spiritual, if you really think about it. If we talk about it even through the lens of cognitive behavioral therapy, right? Perception creates reality. What it is that we observe to be the truth is going to be what we're responding to. However, it also happens to be the case on a higher tier that your perception is creating your state of being, and that your being then is what you are seeing reflected on the screen of your consciousness by way of the mirror principle. If you think about manifestation through the lens of like a very simple definition, I can think of it as being equals creation. So manifestation is just I'm always saying, you're already a master manifester. Nobody needs to teach you how to manifest. However, what is your state of being? So if you're saying that, for instance, I need person X to like me, it's gonna be a friendship, romantic, whatever. What you're saying is that they don't. Whatever, and this is, just a very basic message, but, we are really prone to attaching cause to the external world because that's what we're taught from the time that we come out to the time that we emerge. From the time that we emerge out into the world, we're taught that the cause is the creation of whatever we are subjected to and conditioned with, and whatever's outside of our control out there. And that if we seek to experience anything pleasurable or positive, or basically not hell on earth inside, then we need to seek to control outcomes out there. And of course that creates anxiety. Of course that creates negative emotional states, because we're in a state of striving and forcing and attempting to manipulate something out there with a state of consciousness unknowingly that affirms that it's not already the case for us. But if you're somebody who thinks, for instance, I need friends, I need people to connect with, there could be people in your environment that are trying to connect with you right here and right now, and you won't see them because you are already maintaining a state of being, and you already have a perception that says no one wants to connect with me. So then now you've got these conditions that it has to be in a certain way. And if it's not in a certain way, then I'm not getting my needs met, which means that you're in a state of not getting your needs met. And it doesn't matter really truly what it is. It can be money. It can be an outcome that has to do with your career. It can be how people see you, how you see yourself. Whatever you need to be the case is never going like that, is because if we look at, it's not going to happen, because need is a state of dependency, and that's what none of us really want to look square in the face, is that if I need anything from anyone, then I'm saying that something internally, either how I see the world or how I see myself or how I'm responding to the world or the emotions I'm experiencing, is dependent upon that thing. And all of us want to be in control of everything, but we never want to actually admit that because we need to be in control of everything around us, we're actually slaves to those things. Whatever angers you is your master, as one of the Stoics once said. Whatever you need to happen out there, you're saying that is the source. And if you take nothing else away from this transmission today, and this is a very simple statement, is that circumstance, and I like it because it doesn't exactly rhyme, but it has a ring to it, that circumstance is not the source. Circumstance is not the source. Whatever the circumstance is, it is not the source. The circumstance even only means what you assign it to mean, because you are, and this is the starting point of every single transmission, you are the source of everything that you see. You are God. And what I mean by you are God is you are an individualized fractal expression of the all that is. And in being an expression of the all that is, you are the all that is relative to your direct environment. You are the God of your reality. So materialization takes what appears to be a period of time, and there's only the eternal now. But manifestation is instant, because if we think of manifestation as the creative act of being, who am I being, that is what you're going to see. If you're somebody, when I'm working with clients on a more long-term basis, it's always identity work, but, depending on the length of time that I might be working with them, depends on how deep we go with these themes, but the themes can be summarized. The work that I do in 10 weeks with somebody is the same thing that I'm saying here today. It's just a matter of, again, how far back we go concerning different lifestyle events, but we're always talking at the level of identity first. The first thing, if I'm working with somebody on anxiety, they define themselves as an anxious person. They define themselves as somebody who can't manage stressful circumstances. They define themselves as someone who is subject to consistent, pervasive, frequent negative emotions, and that those negative emotions are controlling them. So, I usually start at the level of, what if we cease to define ourselves as anxious people? You can have an experience of anxiety. You can have frequent experiences of anxiety. And again, that's a designation of the type of reality of that experience. But, we get to that. But, to define yourself as an anxious person, well, now you're saying that I'm living in a state of being that creates anxiety. So not only are you interpreting everything around you, not only are you interpreting fundamentally neutral events as things that are making me anxious. I'm anxious about everything. Everything makes me anxious. You're now drawing in things into your field that are conducive with that state. So whatever it is that you're feeling on a consistent basis, if you're feeling anxiety on a consistent basis, not only are you perceiving things to be that way, but you're also drawing things in that absolutely would make anybody anxious. So you're really, the being is a creative act of living. You might not be able to materialize, for instance, a certain aim or a certain outcome right now, right here, right now, because it's not about the thing, but your state of being. If we look at manifestation as a creative act of being, and that you're doing that anyway, it's just, deciding to consciously intend to maintain a certain state of being that is conducive to a specific end. But you're doing that anyway. It's just a matter of, are you responding to the world with your patterned, conditioned, this is what I was taught, this is how I believe things are, automatic, autonomic state of being? Is that where you're residing, or are you being intentional about what you're choosing to experience in your world because of the decisions that you make and where you tune your attention and who you say that you are, using the power of your I am? So you're already doing that. If we look at manifestation, it's just a creative state of being, the act of creating through state of being, which you're doing anyway. You can do that right now. You can do that right now. Nobody's stopping you from maintaining and deciding, or at least to maintain, you would first have to establish, but nobody's stopping you from establishing an abundant state of being now. Nobody's stopping you from establishing a loving state of being now. Nobody's stopping you from establishing a creative state of being now, whatever it is that you can identify as your desired aim that is correlated to a creative state of being. Who is the type of person that would experience that desired end? Because that's all we ever really want anyways, basically, to feel a certain way. But it's not in terms of feeling, not only in terms of the fleeting emotions that one might go through throughout the day, but what is your stable, normalized baseline? For an individual that I'm working with anxiety, their stable, normalized baselines for saying everything come in. What are your triggers for anxiety? Breathing. I got up this morning and I got a notification and it made me anxious. And then, the day carried on and I thought about all these tasks I had to do. And then like that made me anxious. And like, I'm anxious about everything because like that's the state of being. So everything is filtered through that. And it's normal. What's actually abnormal to an individual managing that particular reality is to not be anxious. So we're not talking about, okay, well, what are ways to minimize the anxiety? Because that doesn't really matter. Ways to manage that state of being. If the state of being is the same, then that doesn't, you're always going to go back to your homeostatic baseline. Or I think it was, many people have said it. Peter Sage has said it. Tony Robbins has said it. But that one of the strongest forces in human personality is to remain consistent with who we believe that we are. So it doesn't matter if you're somebody who thinks, man, I just, things never go right in my life. I just can't catch a break. You hear yourself, everything you have to say is you defining, this is what I'm experiencing in my life now, and this is what I'm projecting out that I'm going to continue experiencing. That's why you have to be really careful about your words. But, things just never work out for me. Where you're saying things are not working out for me now, they haven't worked out in the past, and they're not going to work out in the future. And you're declaring that over yourself. You're hexing yourself, really, so you want to be also additionally conscious of, where you're hexing yourself. But, the core of this video being, whatever you need is a dependency. And if you were to say that out loud, like to replace, like, let's just say, okay, I need Joe to like me. Okay, let's replace that with I'm dependent on Joe liking me. Ooh, that doesn't feel good. And obviously, we have basic needs, of course, if you're watching this, hopefully you have food, water, and shelter. So there is a certain, hierarchy of needs, those lower ones that need to be met for really any of this to matter. But for you to say, okay, I need $50 versus I'm dependent upon receiving $50. Like that word dependent, it helps you recognize where I have misplaced the power of source. $50 might, help you get whatever it is that you want. Screw the $50. What is it that you want? And decide that you already have that. And what feeling would that give you? And what is the state of being of the person that would have whatever the thing is? It's 50. If it's a pair of new shoes, like, why do you want the new shoes? Well, shoes are cool, but because I want to feel good about myself. Okay, feel good about yourself now. And what are the specifics of what it would mean to feel good about myself? Would you be more confident? Would you feel more esteemed? Would you feel more at ease in certain social situations? And that's why you want the shoes. And again, we don't do this mental work, right? Like we think it's just about the thing because we're living on the outside in. We're thinking everything is at the that the control center, that the source is everything happening out there in circumstance, and that if we can control the circumstances or manipulate the circumstances, then we can have a new state of being. But I'm sure, all your life you wanted a relationship, right? And then you finally date somebody and it wasn't the right person. Or, you thought this is going to be the job that's going to, save my life. It's going to be super great, super awesome. And then you're there for a month. And, what I'm talking about, you can look this up, the psychology term is the hedonic treadmill, meaning that no matter what we get or how much of it we have, eventually it becomes a new stabilized baseline normal for us. And it stops having the effect of novelty, meaning that sensation, that thrill, that excitement, that enthusiasm when we first got the thing. Well, that thing stops having that meaning for us because we become normalized to the presence of it. Essentially, without all the psychological jargon, we start taking it for granted because it becomes a part of our state of being to have that thing. And then we're looking for the next thing. We're on this, hedonic, hedonism, of the body, of the flesh, of circumstance. I'm reaching out there in order to give me a certain effect. So it's really not about the things. It's about the effect. And if you decide to be the effect and have the effect before you see the effect, then seeing it doesn't really matter. By the time it does come about, and it will if you are being consistent with it, it'll just be a normal part of your experience. You're going to experience in your life what is normal for you, manifestation being the creative act of being. Well, what are you creating? What is normal for you? What is your baseline? And if you don't like what you're seeing, then it's a matter of modifying your perception of yourself to a state of a new baseline. I don't like the word change, because that implies, something's wrong or something needs to be broken, I think. But you design a new baseline for yourself, you establish that, and you stay there. And that's the hardest part, because then if you see something that maybe doesn't align with your new baseline, then we can get pulled back into the realm of, but see the circumstance, and we start attributing power to that circumstance as source again, and then we fall back into our baseline. So in the period of establishing, a new understanding of yourself, a new state of being, you will feel that pull backwards. And it doesn't have to be circumstances changing, it's just your own thoughts or something somebody says. So understanding that will be part of the process as well. So wrapping up today's transmission on to see your needs as dependencies, and we are dependent on nothing. Heaven on earthers. That's the ideology of the ministry of heaven is a place on earth. Belinda Carlisle, look that up. Check out the dispatches from the Edge of Obvious podcast and the Liberation Chronicle, which is a Substack community. You will have direct access to me. And if you have any questions on how to create your heaven on earth, you can send me an email or drop them in the comments, and I'll make sure that they are the topic of an upcoming transmission. Remember to be good to yourselves and others, because everybody's just a version of you anyway. Until next time.